Okay, good evening. Hope you're all doing well. Today we are learning Maseches Sanhedrin Daf Lamed Hey. Baruch Hashem, it's more of a normal sized blot. We're starting at the very bottom of Lamed Dal and Lamed Beis at the two dots, 3 lines from the bottom. And Amir Hashem will get to the bottom of Lamed Hey Lamed Beis at the words Omar Abaye, about 7 or 8 lines from the bottom. I'll be here, Amir Hashem, for the remainder of the week. On Sunday, I'm off to Panama. On Sunday, that day, Rabbi Handler will be teaching that day's shiur. And Amir Hashem, I'll drop a recording each day, preferably in the morning if I can swing it, so that those who want to follow along with our shiur will have a shiur, even from Panama. Not home the next Shabbos, so I'll be gone for 7 or 8 days. Oh, even longer, because I'm going to the Prisma conference when I land. So I'll be back February 5th, actually. It's a long stretch. So, but for that, I'll have Rabbi Handler. That's easier. But for the 5, 6, 7 days of the week during the week, I'll be posting.
Listen, negotiating for America to buy the Panama Canal, it's a big job, you know?
Some
Yeah,
he does. You know,
why you said that.
he did.
Similar.
It's similar. And that's why the ATT is sending me to Panama as a 3-week-old CEO. I'm like a little embryo in this field. And they're like, let's send this guy, a little Korban. It says the Gemara, 3 lines from the bottom, Dinei Nefashos done in Bayom. We said that by Dinei Nefashos, all aspects of the case have to be judged during the day. Minah and Emili, how do we know? Amar of Simi Barchia Amar Kra. The pasuk says, and this pasuk can be found in Bamidbar. I'll read the whole pasuk. Vayomer Hashem el Moshe kach es kol roshei ha'am v'hoka osam laHashem neged hashamesh v'yashov charon af meIsrael. Hang these people. Hoka means to hang them. And at what time do we do the hangings? Neged hashemesh. That's what the Gemara says. That's how we know that even the punishment aspect of Dinei Nefashos has to be done during the day. Amar of Chizda minayin lehoka shitliya. How do we know that word of hoka means to hang? Dichsiv hokanum laHashem b'kibashu b'chir Hashem, without going into the sugya there. And as well, uchsiv atikach ritzba basaya es hasak vatateu la el hatzur b'tchilas katir. And the psukim there go on to say that someone was able to see the bodies hanged. The Gemara then speaks about this idea, but more asking a question on it. The pasuk says, "Vayomer Hashem el Moshe kach es kol roshei ha'am." That's the pasuk that we just read. The problem with this pasuk says the Gemara, "Ha'am chatu, roshei ha'am machatu." Who did the sin? If the sins were done by everybody, so then everybody should have the sin. If the sins were done by the people, so why were the roshei ha'am? Why were they also included? So Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav Lamed Hey Amar Aleph, 5 lines down. Amar Lo HaKadosh Baruch Hu LeMoshe Chalak Lehem Batei Dinin. What I want you to do is split up all of the individual cases across all of the Batei Din in town. I don't want everybody going to the same Beis Din. I want you to spread out, make it as broad of a spread of those who did crimes that they should be in various Batei Din. My time of Ilema Mishum She'ein Danin Shnayim B'Yom Echad. If you want to say that there's a general restriction on a Beis Din, that they cannot adjudicate over 2 different types of capital punishments in a day, let's say 1 chenek and 1 sreifa, right? 1 hereg and 1 saif. That's only true. When do we have a limit of a Beis Din adjudicating over 2 capital cases? That's when the 2 capital cases have different punishments. Abel b'misa achas, and over here the pasuk was talking about the Yidden having done avodah zarah. The onash is the same. So there is no restriction in using 1 Beis Din. So why did we want to use multiple Batei Din? We didn't need to use multiple Batei Din. Ella says the Gemara, Kadesh Yashav Charon Af Yisrael, that by using multiple Batei Din, this reduces a Kadosh Baruch Hu's anger. Let's take a look at Rashi. Rashi is about a quarter of the way down in the Rashis. Dibra Maschil Ella, Kedemuchach Kra, V'yashov Charon Af V'gomer. And look at this svara that Rashi gives to apply to the Gemara. Shakadosh Baruch Hu roeh shekulam asukin bedavar umekanan lechvodo. He sees everyone's working to put his chadesh menu kekedem. So you have not 1 Beis Din who's adjudicating all the cases. You have 50 Batei Din, and all of them are saying, "How dare you? How could you? How could you do avodah zarah?" So now you have all of these rabbanim chashuvim who are standing up for the covenant of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Therefore, That is why the pasuk says, "Vayomer Hashem Moshe, Kach es kol roshei ha'am," that you need to get all of the roshei ha'am. What does it mean, roshei ha'am? That the batei din, they should divide and conquer as many batei din as we have. All of them should be functioning that morning. Nobody's closed, because it's better when there are more people standing up for the kavod of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Could be. I don't think that this is a halachic application of that. The svara is correct. I don't think the terminology is halachically applicable here. It would be ke'ilu, like there was a massive avla in town, and either we could have Rabbi First and Rabbi Reese talk about it, or every shul can put out a letter. It's a bigger quote shemaim that every rav should put out a letter and say this is not right. This is not what you didn't do. Some of the rabbis are smaller. Yeah, in but that shouldn't stop us for quote shemaim. For quote shemaim, everyone should pipe up. Next Gemara, Dine Mamanis Gomrin Bo Bayom, that with Dine Mamanis you can adjudicate during the day and you can finish the case at night. Minani Mili, Amar Reb Chanina, the Amar Kra. The pasuk says in Sefer Yeshaya, the pasuk says, no, that's the wrong pasuk. No, it's the right pasuk. Oh, I'm looking at the wrong pasuk. In Sefer Yeshaya, the pasuk says, Melei Asi Mishpat Tzedek Yolin Ba Ve'atom Eratzchem. What do we see in this pasuk? We see this principle of tzedek yolin ba, that with righteousness you need halonas hadin. The Rava Amar, that's not where we learn it from. Just to be clear, what we're talking about is by dine mamanis you can finish everything even at night, but by dine nefashos we need to wait overnight. So the din of halonas hadin comes from Sefer Yeshaya. The Rava Amar mehacha, Rava says it comes from another pasuk in Yeshaya that says ashiru chamotz. Asheru dayan shemechametz etzdino. It's better, or we should encourage, according to some explanations, the dayan to be mechametz his din. What do we know about chametz? It takes time to leaven. What do we know about din and nefashos? It takes time to make proper decisions. We're not allowed to be rapid in regards to the decision-making process. The Shita, who doesn't hold to these psukim because they didn't agree with each other. You have Reb Chanina on the one side and Rav on the other. V'idach, according to Reb Chanina, Ashru chamotz. Why didn't he use that? Because below chometz, he said the word means a different thing. It doesn't. You're talking about different words, and you made a drush on a word that you shouldn't have. V'idach, what would Rava say about the pasuk of Reb Chanina? Haimele asi mishpat my avidle. Kid Rabbi Lazar Amar Yitzchak. Amar Rabbi Lazar Amar Rabbi Yitzchak. Kol tainis. If ever we are finishing up a tainis, shemalinin boas hatzdaka. And toward the end of the tainis, we're not quick to feed those who don't have any food. Ki'ilu shofech damim. In such a case, it's as though we've spilled blood. Shenamar mele'asi mishpat tzedek. V'hani mili, says the Gemara berifta v'tamri. This is talking about foods that are at the ready, bread and dates, things that they can put in their mouth right now. Aval bezuzi chite usaari, with money or wheat flour or barley flour, less lanba. If all you have is those items, you're not helpful anyway. They have to go bake a challah. They have to knead the challah. They have to wait for it to rise. It takes forever. Challah takes a long time. So says the Gemara that is what the pasuk meant, and therefore he didn't learn the pasuk the same way. Even though Reb Chanina used that pasuk to teach us about halonas hadin, Rava couldn't use it because he had repurposed the pasuk of Malayasi b'mishpat to teach us that it's aser, and this is actually the Maisa. This is quoted in Yoreh De'ah and Hilchos Tzedakah, that we should be thoughtful when it comes to giving tzedakah to poor people, that we should give them food that they can eat right away. Lefichach ein danin. What does this mean? We said that you're not allowed to adjudicate a case of dine nefashos on an Erev Shabbos or on an Erev Yantiv. That's what the Mishnah said on Lamed Beis. Why not? My taima. Mishum de lo efshar, because the whole scenario is impossible. Why is the scenario impossible? Because after all, heichi le'avid, what should you have done? If you want to say le'dane b'ma'alei shabsa, v'ligmarei le'dine b'ma'alei shabsa, you're not allowed to do it all on Friday, the beginning, the haschala sadin and the gemar din, because dil machazu tam lechova ubo leme'evad halonas din. Because if we think at the conclusion of our Friday morning Bezdin session that perhaps this person's chayiv, well, then we have a din of halonas hadin. And you're not allowed to go back on Shabbos, because on Shabbos you can't kill the person. And if in fact it ended up being chayiv, he needs to be killed that day, as we'll soon see in the Gemara. So says the Gemara, perhaps, Leidaine b'ma'alei shabsa, v'ligmarei b'shabsa, v'liktele b'shabsa. Says the Gemara, okay, Well, perhaps we should judge the case. We should have a Beis Din session on Shabbos morning. V'ligmarei b'Shabsa. We should make our decision on Shabbos, but v'liktele b'Shabsa. And we should execute the person on Shabbos. No, we have a lot of things that are done on Shabbos. We do brisim on Shabbos under certain circumstances. Although that's, what? Right, but it's aseh dochelos aseh also. The principle, that's really more by tzaras, actually. You're right. The gzeros are by Shabbos. But the principle of aseh dochelos aseh, milah is not a good example. But aseh do.
Does the body become oxidable?
The
Once
body?
person is killed?
Yes, but that's not the problem. Because if we have a chiyuv, if we have a mitzvah to mete out the punishment, so maybe we have aseh dochelos aseh. Maybe the act of hereg, of killing this guy, whatever capital punishment he gets, but maybe that act is aseh dochelos aseh. That's what the Gemara wants to know. That's the Havamina. Otherwise, why would the Gemara recommend killing someone on Shabbos? You're not allowed to make somebody bleed. Now you're going to kill somebody. So the Gemara says, because ein ritzicha doches ha-Shabbos. And we're going to see, based on Kal V'chomers, why it is the case that ritzicha, that meting out a capital punishment is not allowed. Says the Gemara, v'liktele le'orta, fine, killed him on Motzei Shabbos. Says the Gemara, neged hashemesh ba'inan. Didn't we just learn that at the bottom of the page? Look at the previous Amud, last two lines. V'okau Hashem neged hashemesh. That when we mete out a capital punishment, it has to be done when the sun is up. V'ligmarei l'dinei b'Shabbos. So fine, let's come up with the conclusion on Shabbos, the Gemar din, and v'liktele b'chad b'Shabbos, and only mete out the punishment on Sunday morning. It's not a big deal. Shabbos ends at 5:30, whatever, 5:40. We'll kill him at 8 a.m. Finish a shacharis and go kill the guy. No problem. It says the Gemara, and this is only the Torah. Nimtza ta ma'aneh es dino. You're making him suffer through the din. Namely, when a person knows that they're going to be killed, the anticipation is horrible. Better to kill them faster, which is interesting because I would have thought there's a competing factor, which is that the longer that the neshama is in the guf, the better that it is for the olam ha'emes. Yeah. That's what I would have thought. But I'm what? Bigger kapara. So. Yeah, let him, quote unquote, let him suffer a little bit, and that suffering will lower his ownish and it'll increase his standing in the next world. Not what the Gemara says. The Gemara says, you're not allowed to do that. So once he knows, again, in this theoretical Havamina that we reject, on Sunday, he's going to be killed based on a psak from Shabbos. So that's also not right, because we're ma'aneh dino. That's not right. Asks the Gemara, Nedaine b'ma'ale Shabbos, v'nigmrei b'chad b'Shabbos. Fine, let's start the conversation on Erev Shabbos, but we won't do the Gemar din until Sunday, and we won't do anything on Shabbos. That's a good idea, because the only Isser, the only thing that's inappropriate about waiting to kill him is after the Gemar din. But if my Friday morning Beis Din session is just discussing, the Gemar din happens on Sunday, what's the problem? Great question. So says the Gemara, Minshu ta'amaihu. People are going to forget their svaras. And here we're going to see a very true emes lamito psychology. Says the Gemara as follows. Afal gab, the shnei sofer hadayanim omdin lifneim. Even though the stenographers were there. The chosvin divrei hamazakin v'divrei hamachayvin. And they wrote down, Merzel says this, Weissman says this. They have everything. Listen to this. Nehide bepuma kasvin. They wrote down what the person said. But liba the inshi, the hearts of people, inshi, they're forgetful. There are like gentle svaras that we have going on in our brain. We're in the middle of a chavrusa. You have a certain tfisa on Tosfos. And even though you could repeat his shita later, but you're not in it anymore. And because you're not in it anymore with that delay of not 24 hours, but 48 hours, not allowed to do that. That means that you won't be as sharp in the sugya on Sunday as you were on Friday because you had one day off in between. So subtle. Again, only the Jews. This is amazing. Court cases in America can take years, especially capital cases. They could take forever. We have 2 working days, and then the sugya is over, and if he's guilty, he's dead. If he's innocent, he walks, with double jeopardy in most cases. Unbelievable, so sensitive. Hilkach lo efshar. That's why we can't do the discussion on Friday and the Gemar din on Sunday, because the gap in time we begin to forget not what we said, but maybe some of the subtleties as to why we said it. Beautiful Gemara. Okay, put on your thinking caps. Amar le Reish Lakish to Rav Yochanan, 6 lines from the bottom of Lamed Hamad Al. Utehei kavuras meis mitzvah doche Shabbos mikal v'chomer. Perhaps we should say that burying a meis mitzvah, not a regular family member, but burying a meis mitzvah, a person that God forbid dies, and we find them on the side of the road, maybe Shabbos afternoon, grab a shovel, dig a hole, ayetz chofer, yeah, but meis mitzvah overrides. That's what the Gemara's Havamina. That's what Reish Lakish wants to say to Rav Yochanan. What's the kal v'chomer? Uma, and just like avoda, working in the Beis Hamikdash, bringing korbanos, you're cutting animals, there's bleeding, you're skinning animals, you're being mafshit. There's a whole host of what would have been isurim on Shabbos, but avoda is shedoche Shabbos, and kvuras meis mitzvah, kvuras meis mitzvah doche osa, and meis mitzvah is doche the avoda. How do we know that meis mitzvah is doche avoda? Because, says the Gemara, we've seen this Gemara a few times in Shatz, from the word vila achoso, kidetanya. We saw this Gemara in Brachos, in Megillah, and in Nazir. Now we're seeing it again in Sanhedrin. What does the Gemara say? Kidetanya. The pasuk says, la'aviv ule'imo ule'achiv. Vila achoso lama. Vila achoso ma tamalomar. Why do we have the word v'la'achoso? So you said, I understand. I understand. I don't need more people. You made your point. Says the Gemara, Hare, holech lishchot es pischa. A man was going to bring a korban pesach. V'lamul espino. A man was going to do a bris for his son. And v'shama shemes lomes. And he found that Rachmana litzlan, that a family member died. Listen to this. Yachol litma top of lamed hayamid base. Yachol yitama. Maybe we should say that the person should become tameh, either on the way to do the mitzvah of korban pesach or bris milah. Amris lo yitama. So says the Gemara. That's what the pasuk means. You should not become tameh in those cases. And listen to this. Yachol kishem she'enu metameh la'achos kach enu metameh l'meis mitzvah. You might have thought that just like a person should not become tameh to bury his sister, the same is true for a meis mitzvah. Talmud lomar, that extra word that we didn't know what to do with. Talmud lomar v'la'achoso. La'achosu deinu metame. Aval metame l'meis mitzvah. So what do we see? That meis mitzvah is doche. What was the example at the bottom of Lamed Hamad Aleph of going to bring a korban pesach? So now we see that a meis mitzvah is doche avoda. So says the Gemara, if a meis mitzvah is doche avoda, then Shabbos shenidches mipnei ha'avoda. Then Shabbos, which is overridden by Avoda. So we have Meis Mitzvah is more powerful than Avoda. Avoda is more powerful than Shabbos. And Eino Din. Shetehei Kvuras Meis Mitzvah Doche Osa. Then L'chora, based on logic, Meis Mitzvah should be a chiyuv even on Shabbos. A beautiful svara. If A is greater than B and B is greater than C, then A is greater than C. If meis mitzvah is greater than avoda, if avoda is greater than Shabbos, then meis mitzvah is greater than Shabbos. And you should be able to bury the meis mitzvah on Shabbos. Amar le, says the Gemara, ritzicha tochiach shedoches ha'avoda ve'eno doches ha'Shabbos. There are cases where the Kohen is the rotzeach, and in such a case where the Kohen is the rotzeach, where it's doche the avoda, but it's not doche Shabbos. So therefore, we ruined our kal v'chomer. We showed an exception to the rule in kal v'chomer. Our equation of our kal v'chomer is that if meis mitzvah is greater than avoda and avoda is greater than Shabbos, then meis mitzvah is greater than Shabbos. A perfect formula. But says the Gemara, it's not always true the way you said it. Because when there's a rotzeach who's a kohen, then while it is doche avoda, but it's not doche Shabbos. So says the Gemara, Ratzicha gufa tidche es haShabbos mikal v'chomer. We should say that the Ratzicha itself should be doche Shabbos. How so? Ma avoda shedoches haShabbos. We know that korbanos are doche Shabbos. Ratzicha doche osa. We just said that a person can be rotzeach. A person who is a rotzeach, they can still do avoda. Shneimar me'im bizbechiti kachenu lamus. So we know that's true. Then Shabbos shenidches mipnei avoda einu din shetei ritzicha doche osa. So says the Gemara, the same svara. If ritzicha can be done if a rotzeach can do his avoda, and avoda can be done on Shabbos, then a rotzeach should override Shabbos as well. So Amar Rava says, Klar Paska Tana de Rabbi Shmuel. He says, no, we already have an answer to this question from a place that's unexpected. And we're a third of the way down. We've had this Gemara too, many times as well, I believe. Oh, maybe not, only once. Oh, none of us are going to. It's Yevamos. So it says the Gemara, the Tana de Rabbi Shmuel. The pasuk says, Lo Savaru Eish. We know the famous pasuk of Lo Savaru.
2 lines down. You're correct. This is a famous Gemara.
Why are you saying 2 lines down? Oh, the base. Okay, I'm not crazy. Okay, fine. I mean, this is a famous sugya in general, but it might have been that we only saw it once. I don't know. But I also learned this sugya, not this sugya, but the sugya of L'chalek Yatzas, and I learned it over in yeshiva because it's a big chakira. It says the Gemara, how do we know that Ritzicha doesn't override Shabbos? It says the Gemara, the Tana de Rabbi Shmuel, Lo Savaru Eish, Ma Talmud Lomar. Why does the Torah have to articulate the Isra of Lo Savaru Eish? What, you're picking one out of the 39? I don't see a pasuk about Shtei Batei Nirin. I don't see a pasuk about, I don't know, pick one. It doesn't matter. There's none. It's all Kimat below. There are very few Isurim on Shabbos that are listed. So it says the Gemara, what do you mean Matal Lomar? We all know why the pasuk of Eish was brought out. It's a machlokes Tanaim. Either Rabbi Yossi lalav yotzas, either according to the Shita of Rabbi Yossi. The reason why the Torah articulated the Isra of Lo Savaru Eish B'chol Moshe Vosechem Yom HaShabbos is to teach us that it's different than the other 38 melachos, in that it's only a lav and not a regular fundamental capital crime. However, Ila Reb Nasan L'chalek Yatzas to teach us that if a person were to violate 10 different Isurim on Shabbos, 10 melachos, he gets 10 separate boxes of punishment, 10 different Isurim. Kedatanya, the pasuk says this expressly, Havar lalav Yatzas. Rabbi Yossi says that Havara is different, and the others are even more stringent in regards to their onesh. By Havara, it's only a lav, and by the other Isurim, it's a greater punishment. And Reb Nasan Amar L'chalek Yatzas, what do you mean Matal Nomar? We know why we have the pasuk of Lo Savaru Eish B'chol Moshe Vosechem Yom HaShabbos. So says the Gemara, Ela Amar Rava, you're 100% right. The part of the pasuk we were focusing on wasn't that part of the pasuk. The part of the pasuk we were focusing on is El Amar Rava Tana Moshvos Kashila. It's actually Moshvos Sechem, right? Lo Savaru Eish B'chol Moshe Vosechem. That's the part of the pasuk that we're worried about. Moshvos Matam Lomar Michti says the Gemara. I don't understand. Lo Savaru Eish B'chol Moshe Vosechem. Why did you say that the only Isra of Havara is in the Machana, is in the Moshav? Shabbos Chovas Hagufi. Shabbos is a din in me. It doesn't matter where I am. So why did you say that Eish is only a problem of Moshe Vosechem? It says the Gemara, Moshe Vosechem Rachmana Lamali, and answers the Gemara, Mishum Rabbi Shmuel. Amar Tamar Echad Lifnei, Amar Tamar Echad Lefi Shenemar. One of the Talmidim said, Shenemar, in this part of the Gemara, is a little duplicative, so we just have to hold cup for a second. Says the Gemara, the pasuk says, Shenemar Ki Yeish Chet Mishpat Maves V'Humas. Shomea ani bein b'chol bein b'Shabbos. If a person needs to be punished, I might have thought that their punishment is meted out either during the week or even on Shabbos, mechudash. But we also have a pasuk in Chumash that says that those who violate Shabbos are themselves put to death. So now, which one is it? B'shar melachos chutz mi misas bezdin. Do we say that b'shar melachos and other melachos outside of misas bezdin, that's when it's mechalaleha mos yumas? But meeting out a punishment of capital punishment is mutter on Shabbos. Oh, enu ella afilu misas bezdin, or perhaps even the isser of misas bezdin of meeting out a capital punishment applies even on Shabbos. Umani mekayim behumas b'chol avalo b'Shabbos. And maybe I might have said that when can he be killed? Only Sunday through Friday, but he cannot be killed on Shabbos. Oh, and this is the duplicated part. Oh, enu ella afilu b'Shabbos. Again, it seems to be like we're right. It almost seems like it's saying the same thing twice. So it says the word Talmud Lomar Lo Savaru Eish B'chol Moshe Vosechem. The word Moshe Vosechem. What does the word Moshe Vosechem mean? Now we need to extend our svara a little more. Ulahalanu Omer v'hayu eile lochem l'chukas mishpat l'dorosechem b'chol Moshe Vosechem. And look at this. Two psukim that use the word Moshe Vosechem. Ma Moshavos ha'amor lahalan bezdin. The pasuk that we just saw of the hayu eile v'chulei that ends with Moshe Vosechem, that was talking about bezdin. Af Moshe Vosechem ha'amor kan bezdin. So too, when it says lo savaru eish b'chol moshvosechem, you're not allowed to light a fire in Bezdin. What does that mean? Lo savaru eish b'chol moshvosechem means you're not allowed to kill someone, meting out a punishment in Bezdin. So even though you came up with a kal v'chomer that ritzicha, a rotzeach can do as avoda, and if avoda is greater than Shabbos, perhaps a rotzeach can do as avoda on Shabbos. No, because a bezdin is not allowed to punish anyone on Shabbos with a capital punishment. So says the Gemara. One little maisa about this pasuk, I might have shared it many years ago, but this pasuk actually shook someone to their core. I did a circumcision for a Goyish family, stark Christians. And I got there, and I was I'm a nice person. I was checking on their older kid, who I didn't do, who actually needed some plastic surgery. So I was helping them, guiding them, whatever. Then they had a newborn. The parents couldn't stay in the room. They left the room. I said, come back in 10 minutes. The baby was in my arms, calm. They went on a 10-minute walk. When they came back, the baby was in my arms, calm, and a little bit lighter, circumcised. Good. I was about to leave the house, and he said, listen, Phil, I consider you a friend, and I would be remiss I didn't tell you that you need to bring Yoshka into your life. So in my head, I'm like, you picked the wrong guy. So I took off my coat, dead of January, this time of year. And I said to the two of them, his name happened to also be Phil. I said, Phil, I don't remember her name. I said, what did you eat for breakfast on Saturday morning? So they said, we had eggs and sausage. I said, but wait 1 second. The Bible says, Lo savaru eish b'chol moshvosechem b'yom HaShabbos. I don't understand. The Bible says that you're not allowed to light a fire in your camp. Did you turn on your stove? So I said, look, maybe I'm going to Gehenna. I said, Bazel, I used the English word for it. I said, maybe I'm going to Gehenna. If I'm going to save you a seat right next to me because you just violated the Bible. By the way, the Torah says that you need to do shchita ka'asher tzivisicha, as I have commanded you. Do you know how the animal that you ate was killed? Because I know how the animals that I ate were killed, and they were perfectly in accordance with Jewish law. And then I said, you can't, with academic integrity, pick and choose whatever you feel comfortable doing. Your Yashka is found nowhere in Chumash, nowhere. The New Testament, a whole new ball game, but in the canonized Tanakh of 24 books, nowhere to be found. So stop thrusting things on other people when you don't even know the own book you're talking about. And this was the pasuk that I used to just, there was a little bit of a shtach. His wife, Kimat, fell over. The blood left her face. She literally braced herself on her face. Completely unfamiliar. Well, they don't have Shulchan Aruch. They don't have anything. It's all chushkait. No, he was like, what about Isaiah 54? I'm like, show me Isaiah 54. Yeah.
Exactly what you just
Exactly.
said.
So then he pulled the whole Virgin Mary thing. I said, show me the verse. So he gave it to me. I looked it up on my phone. He said, and it says in the King James Bible that she was a virgin. I said, yeah, but that's because you don't speak Hebrew. And the Hebrew word for the girl in the verse you're talking about was Alma. And an Alma is just a young girl, not talking about her virginity. We have words for that. A Besula, we have words for that. Or Lo Yada'ah, she never was slept with. Stop making things up. Like you if you can't read the Mama Lashon, you're not part of the conversation, you know. So that night I was going to sleep. He sends me a quote from Galatians. He says, as you go off to sleep tonight, a little bit of a quote from the New Testament. I said, thank you very much. I appreciate your help. Have a good night. And now we don't talk anymore. All right, we'll stop right here. Wishing you all a beautiful night.